There's been a very interesting trend going on in the EV world, and I don't know if you've noticed it or not, or if it's really registered. It just kind of hit me that they're moving EVs more towards off-road capable vehicles. And this seems exactly opposite of the promise of electric vehicles of being extremely efficient. I thought I'd dig in today onto why are they doing it, because the answer is as simple and as complex as money. And so welcome back to All Cars, y'all. And EVs, I'm not wading into the political discussion around EVs. Certainly the political winds here in the United States have been changing, and there's some interesting data behind it that while we're planning on, it appears, canceling consumer incentives to buy EVs, the fact is that because Musk is associated with this current administration, it's actually raising the interest in EVs from those who associate as being more conservative. But it does mean that while they're currently at about a 9.1% with the last data I've seen of total sales, the growth of the sales has been slowing. Not negative. It's just not growing as fast as everybody thought it was going to. We've been discussing this for probably a year and a half now on the channels. And automakers are cutting back on their investments into new platforms and their plans to roll out EVs. So I don't want this to become an anti-EV or a pro-EV video and comments. I want this to be a look at the market as it stands right now. Now, electric vehicles, their promise, their advantage is extreme efficiency for the energy used. And if you look back at the recent history of EVs, you had that Mitsubishi i-MiEV, the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt, nice practical sedans with a modest range that became better and better over time. Then you have Tesla. Now, they hit it by going a totally different way with the Model S and certainly their Roadster. Big batteries, lots of range, lots of performance, and moved down market with the Model X, the Model Y, and the Model 3. All the styling generally by putting a chocolate Cadbury egg out in the sun and letting it just kind of melt a little bit. But you think about those sport utilities, the Model Y specifically, and it's just another sport utility. Then you think about the Volkswagen ID4 or the Nissan Ariya, perfectly fine vehicle, but it doesn't really move the needle in terms of excitement or anything else. It just strives to be, much like the new Equinox, Chevy Equinox EV, a middle-of-the-road SUV right where consumers like to buy their cars. And then, of course, you've got the Mustang Mach-E over here. And so most manufacturers were kind of aiming for that. I guess I could throw VinFast in here as well. That middle market consumer who loves an SUV and would consider an EV. But there's been some trends going on behind the scenes. With the GM's Ultium platform, they came out first with the Hummer EV, an off-road vehicle. You've got the F-150 Lightning. You've got the Chevy Silverado EV. You've had some moves into off-road ability, and let's not ignore Rivian here with the R1S and R1T, both off-road capable. But there's been more of a move towards it, because let's not forget, Scout is launching, offering off-road potential in an SUV body. Ford has come out with a off-road ready version of the Mach-E, as has Hyundai with the Ioniq 5, one of my personal favorites in the EV world. But having an off-road ready vehicle like that doesn't seem to play to the strengths of electrics, at least in some ways. Electric vehicles can offer a ton of horsepower, great performance, and almost instant on torque, which is good if you are off-roading. But those bigger, heavier tires give a lot more rolling resistance. They raise the body, tend to be in square bodies, which all play a factor in your aerodynamics and the ability to get the most efficiency. And when one of the top concerns of EV buyers still is range and charging, having an off-road vehicle that gets less range in a place where there's not going to be a lot of charging stations out in the middle of a forest seems counterintuitive. So why is it happening? Well, there's a really good article over on ABC News, and they reference an Auto Pacific study which shows that people want to buy vehicles that show their lifestyle choices, that show their off-road desires. And there is an increasing move. I could not find the actual Auto Pacific study that says such a thing, but they do have it around the electric trucks. And there's a move in this nation more and more for people wanting to go off-road and have that lifestyle vehicle. You think about the Hyundai Santa Fe, the Santa Cruz lifestyle truck. You think about the many videos on YouTube of people who have like Mercedes vans they've turned into campers and they travel around. The Subarus that promise the ability to go out into the woods and camp for a weekend. This is all part of a move that people want to either get into nature and they need a vehicle to do it, or at least they want people to think they can go into nature. They want the potential to go into nature. But EVs, except for Tesla and BYD, are not profitable. The Mach-E continues on and Ford's cut back their investments, but they're not making any money on any of these. So why invest in a new model with more off-road ability, with that higher ground clearance and the bigger tires and the look of it? Well, it harkens back to me to the creation of sub-brands. I think it's been pretty brilliant by Ford to create the Bronco sub-brand. People wanted a Bronco, so they gave them a Bronco and a Bronco Sport based on the Escape. Toyota did the same thing with the Prius, creating it as its own little sub-brand. And doing so increases the profitability of those specific models. So for the people who are placing the look or the ability to go off-road above the range anxiety, automakers are simply feeding that desire by consumers. They want the ability to go off and say that they can go into the woods and go camping or go wading across a stream or whatever it happens to be. And every single one of those changes, those bigger tires, those bigger wheels, the lift kit, the light bar, whatever they happen to put on it, each one of those is an incremental bit of profit money that the automakers can charge. So while you may have platforms like the Mach-E, which are losing money, by selling these trim lines, you're feeding the need of the consumer while also maybe making a little bit more, or at least reducing your losses in the process. I don't really see the point myself with the range anxiety, the slow rolling through the woods. I don't think any of these are really rock crawlers. You're not going to go attack the Rubicon in them. And I'd be very afraid to run out of juice somewhere in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. So I don't see the point, but they seem to be having a big following. They seem to be having some healthy sales, and more automakers are doing it. So the end result is that the EV market, one way to look at it is it's actually maturing. While we need more models and lower priced models, the fact that they're starting to subdivide out does show a sense of health, of tailoring their products to a market and exploiting it, just like when you take an EV and turn it into a hot hatch. Thank you, Hyundai. That's where I'm going to end with this one today. I think it's counterintuitive, but it's playing to the market's desires. And it may not appeal to me, but I'm glad to see it happening. Let me know your thoughts below, guys. Thanks for being here.